Welcome back. In just the latest example of Biden's policies driving the US into the ground, new GDP numbers show the economy shrank 1.6% in the first quarter of this year. It's worst showing since the height of the pandemic shutdown. It's clear we need a change, and on this 4th of July weekend, it's the perfect time to bring you a fantastic, positive and practical plan to revitalize American economic policy using one of the pillars of our nation, natural liberties. Authors believe that by liberating the power of the individual and promoting innovation, the US can turn our economy around and return to our rightful place as the leading economic force around the world. One of the authors of this new plan joins me now, former member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, Kevin Warsh. Kevin, great to see you. I love the way that you framed this. We see lots of policy plans churned out by all sorts of clever people like yourself. But the way this was framed as a sort of deeply American plan, taking the best of America, turning it to our economic advantage, I thought that was fantastic. Tell us more about the plan.
Well, Steve, thanks very much. It's great to be with you. You've got the excitement of a new American, that ethos that people that come to our shores have. So it's great to be on the show. It is easy, Steve, as you say, these days to be critical. The economy is going in the wrong direction. Inflation is eating real incomes. There's a cost of living squeeze. And in some ways, it's easy to be dark. But what my co-author, John Kogan, and I tried to do is say, can we build a machine? Can we build an intellectual machine so we drop ideas into it? And if the machine says they're good, then they will help the U.S. win the 21st century, win the great rivalry with China that's upon us. So we tried to be positive and affirmative. We thought that, Steve, there's a huge amount of white space between the Enlightenment of a couple hundred years ago and the next president's 10-point plan. So that's what we tried to do. It had three basic core tenets, which we really got from our history of natural liberty, as you said. We say at core, if a policy is a good one, it will liberate the individual. If a policy is a good one, it will lead to the promulgation of new ideas. And if a policy is a good one, it'll be clear for that institution, whether it be in the government or private, what's their responsibility and accountability instead of blurring lines, much like you talked about on your prior segment. And I think it's easiest to understand these three I's by saying how at odds they are with our current framework today. Individuals aren't thought to have unique preferences. They're thought to be part of a group or of a class. We think that's the wrong direction for economic growth. Ideas, we often think of them now as zero sum. More for me means less for you. And that's not what ideas in the 21st century mean. And institutions, we're confusing the roles of the private sector and the government. And in so doing, we see, I think, an unfortunate coziness between big corporations and the big state.
I think it's just so important. I mean, because it's foundational. I mean, how do you see this being turning into a sort of practical application? Who should be paying attention to this and reading your report and doing something about it?
Well, ultimately, we hope it's policymakers. We hope that the 2024 campaign is about policy. It's not just a red jersey on one side, a blue jersey on the other, and you say, vote for me, the other guy's a bum. We think history, countries at a turning point. And so the elections that are before us matter more than maybe most in our lifetime. But ultimately, you know, we've all been around Washington enough that we shouldn't ask a bunch of prospective candidates to read the white paper. In some sense, I think our best view is the country is thirsting for new ideas. The country, the citizens of our country know that we're on the wrong track. 75% of them, even at a time like now of full employment, think the country's on the wrong track. Consumer sentiment's the worst it's been in 40 years. So this has to be a bottoms-up movement from the ground, and hopefully this gives just a bit of a positive framework to say we can do this.
Exactly. I really loved it. It's really important, really just so fresh and positive and energizing the way you laid it all out. Kevin, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us and for most importantly for putting this report together.